Hi all, this video is going to answer questions from 45 to 65. I will try, or if it becomes too long, then I may disconnect in between. So let's go and solve the question number 45. The question is, a firm in a market with perfect competition has the following total cost function: TCQ is equal to A plus BQ, where Q is the quantity produced by a firm, A is the fixed cost, and B function of Q is the B times Q is the variable cost. So what will happen if the fixed costs are increased? So whenever the fixed cost is actually a rectangular hyperbola, that is what I have drawn here, called AFC. So AFC is the rectangular hyperbola average fixed cost. It is a rectangular hyperbola because the fixed amount is divided by, as the quantity increases, it becomes smaller and smaller. So the question is, what will happen if the fixed cost increases? So fixed cost curve is the lowest point, lowest curve, and this becomes fixed plus variable cost is average total cost. So if it increases, this average total cost will also increase. So let's see which are the options. Option A, in the short run, the firm's average variable cost curve will shift upward. No, not the variable cost. In the short run, the firm's average total cost curve will shift upward. This is correct because average total cost is average variable cost plus average fixed cost. So if average fixed cost is going up, it will push the total cost as well because average fixed cost is part of that. So it becomes ACT1. That is how it will shift. ATC, average total cost, shifts to ATC1 because fixed cost has increased. So B is definitely correct. Now I go to C. The option C is the firm will earn higher profits. No, because if the fixed cost has increased, it will earn lower profits. And D, in the short run, the firm's marginal cost curve will shift upwards. No, the marginal cost has nothing to do with fixed cost. It has everything to do with variable cost. So answer to question number 45 is B only, as you can see in the graph also. Now question number 46. The emission of greenhouse gas is an example of bads that are. So it is not goods, it is a bad. It is bads. So how is this emission of greenhouse gas? It spreads all over the world. Hence, if one person breathes in, it doesn't become less, and all over the world people breathe in. So it is a non-rival good, like public good. So it is rival and excludable. No, it is not excludable because everybody has to breathe it. So wherever it is excludable, this will not be the correct answer. So B is not the correct answer. And then rival and non-excludable. Well, it is non-excludable because everybody is excluding. But what about rival? Well, it doesn't become smaller like air. Air is not rival. Air is a public good. So it is non-rival and non-excludable. So that's what this emission of greenhouse gases is an example of. It is a bad public produce. So D is the correct answer. The correct answer is D. It is non-rival and non-excludable. Now we go to question number 47. Consider a closed economy. Oh, it is ISLM model. The IS and LM equations are, so it is closed economy, so there is no net exports. So y is equal to C function of y plus I function of z plus g bar. G bar means g is fixed. And m bar by p means m is fixed here because it is m bar, but p is variable. So m bar by p is equal to k times y minus Li. So this is the demand. Ky is the transaction and precautionary demand for money, minus Li is the speculative demand of money because it is affected by interest rate. So where y is output, c is consumption, and C prime is greater than 0, MPC is positive, it means I is the investment, I prime is less than 0 means first derivative of I means as interest increases, the investment will be negative, and Z is I minus pi E, nominal interest minus expected inflation. G bar is the government expenditure, M by P is the fixed real money balances, and KL are positive constant. So both K is some function is less than 1 and L are positive constant. So suppose everyone in the economy suddenly expects the inflation to rise in the future. So all expect that inflation will rise. So assuming that LM curve remains unchanged, LM curve means M bar actually. So LM curve remains unchanged. What will happen in the short run? So in the short run, the money supply is fixed and everybody is expecting inflation. So P is here and then it will increase. So what will happen? So let's see, equilibrium Y increases? No, it doesn't increase because LM curve remains fixed, but aggregate demand curve will be lower. Since aggregate demand curve is a function of price, so if price goes up, aggregate demand curve will be lower. So this side we have, here we have P, total P, and here we have 0, and here we have Q, so or GDP, okay, aggregate demand, so I write it with GDP or quantity. So P will go up, means P is expected to go up because everybody is expecting inflation, and since the income of the people is not going up and also the money supply is not going up, so aggregate demand curve will come down. Now aggregate demand remains unchanged is not correct. Equilibrium Y doesn't increase, rather it should decrease, and equilibrium Y remains unchanged is not correct either, it should decrease. So aggregate demand shifts down. This is only the correct answer. Anyway, aggregate demand is a function of price, and here you see it this way also, that real money supply goes down. Means if P goes down, M bar by P means P is increasing and M bar is fixed. It means this value is becoming smaller since denominator is going up. So this value is becoming smaller means LM curve is shifting to the left. There is actually lower real money supply, and that's why aggregate demand will shift down, because aggregate demand is derived by equating IS curve with the LM curve. So only D is the correct answer. Now we go to the next question. This is, consider the following simultaneous equations model. Okay, here yt is equal to beta 1 and then zt is equal to, okay, here you see this yt is here as well actually, delta 2 times yt. So actually entire this yt will come here also if we substitute yt. So before estimating the above model, a researcher performed the test of identification using order and rank condition and found that equation 2 is over-identified. Over-identified means the number of predetermined variables is much more than the number of variables that has to be estimated, -1, okay. So that is the way we find this over-identification, but this is not the question. The question is then, which of the following methods is appropriate to estimate equation 2? As we said, yt will be substituted in equation 2, means entire equation 1 will become delta 2 times this entire equation in 2. So equation 2 actually is over-identified. So whenever any equation is over-identified, first you have to solve that problem, and then again you run the two-stage least square. So you cannot do any other way. So two-stage least square is the only way that can be used to solve this kind of equations which are over-identified. So only answer A is correct. Indirect least square is not correct. Weighted least square is definitely not correct because it depends upon only, well, it is used only when there is heteroscedasticity. And ordinary least square, since this over-identification is violating the assumption of linearity and well, it is not identified, then we cannot use actually OLS. So only A is the correct answer. Next question is, an income tax system is considered as progressive if the average tax rate rises with income. Yes, that is the definition of progressive income tax. Like if your income increases by 10%, the taxes should increase more than 10%. So that's what the nature of progressive taxes is. So consider an income tax schedule T is equal to P plus T times Y. Very good. That's the way income tax is calculated, where T denotes the tax liability, it is total tax liability, and P is a constant, T is the constant marginal tax rate. So T is a constant marginal tax rate means it is a fixed percentage of income. So since marginal tax rate is constant, say it is 10%, 20%, whatever it is, but it is fixed. And Y is the income. For this tax schedule to be progressive, the value of P. Now we have to make this progressive. It looks Ty as proportional taxes, but then we have to make it progressive. So P can do this. So let's see this. I divided this total tax by T and it becomes P divided by T plus Y. Now what should be the value of P to make it progressive? So the rate of tax is calculated when we draw a line from origin and mixing it with the income, and that gives us the rate of taxation. Now the first option is must be positive. So if it is positive, like it is from above zero, it won't work, because in that case the slope of this line from origin would be smaller. Must be negative. This must be true. B must be true, because if positive is not working, then opposite must be working. And must be zero. No. If we put P zero, then the tax becomes just Ty. Yeah. If we put here P zero, then T is equal to Ty, and it becomes our proportional tax rate. So it cannot be progressive. And then D can be any value except 0. No, it cannot be positive value. It has to be negative value. So D is also not correct. Only B is correct. So let me show you how it is actually working. And here it shows that if the income is Y1 and P is the minus, so 0 is the origin. So we take this, draw a line, and we find that 0 Y1 has 0 slope. Means up to income Y1 there is no taxes. The person doesn't pay any tax. But when income becomes Y2, which is actually twice of this area, so we say Y1 and Y2, I am taking the same distance, then this person pays this tax one. The red line shows the average tax rate, so we can see it like this as well. So here it is. So here it pays T1. Okay, now what is the T1 rate? Actually, T1 is 50% of income. As you can see, this T1 is 50% of income, because total income is Y2, and out of that this part is tax. So T1 is actually 50% of the tax rate. If we go to Y3, then we see that income is 3, and 3 of this is square, or you can say this, and tax is actually 2. So this becomes 2 by 3y. So this becomes actually 67% of income tax. And here, if we go, then income is 4 and tax is 3. This becomes 25% average tax rate. So this slope of the line from origin to the income limit, that gives us the average tax rate. And we see that whenever P is negative, then only these tax rates are increasing as per income. So if income increases, the tax increases more than proportionately. And that is what this is happening here. So B is the correct answer. Now this one needs to be matched. So demographic transition stage. Is it some another video or what? Okay, yeah, no, this is the correct one, yes. So the demographic transition stage, as you all, most of you know, if not all, that the theory of demographic transition says that the demographic changes. So initially, both fertility rate and death rate are high. So that is stage one. So one matches with P, and then at second stage there is medical improvement. So mortality rate reduces, and this is the phase of population explosion. So declining mortality is the second stage. So two should be with S. So one with P, two with S. So let's see, one with P and two with S means only with that we can answer B. But let me see the third one. The third one is declining fertility, and stage 4 is stationary population. So after this declining mortality, population explosion has been big, and then we have this declining fertility as people become more educated and they reduce children. So the fertility rate goes down, and eventually mortality rate and fertility rate equals, and the population becomes stationary. So that is the last stage. So 4 should be R. Okay, so this is answer B that meets this criterion. Now, next question. So, consider two countries, India and Bangladesh, and two goods, glass bottle and ceramic plate, with labor requirements of production for a unit of each good given below. Okay, so this is the labor unit requirement, which is the cost of production. So India produces a glass bottle in just 2 hours of labor and ceramic plate 3 hours of labor, while Bangladesh produces the same glass bottle in 3 hours of labor and 9 hours of labor. So that way, India is actually producing both the goods cheaply than Bangladesh. So India has definitely absolute advantage in both the goods because it is producing cheaper. Now, which of the following options are correct? Since India can produce both the goods cheaper, it is definitely having absolute advantage in both the goods. So let's see. India has an absolute advantage in glass bottle production and a comparative advantage in glass bottle production. What? This is glass bottle production. So this is glass bottle, and which of the following options are correct? So India has an absolute advantage in glass bottle, no doubt that's correct, because it can produce only in 2 hours while Bangladesh produces in 3 hours, and a comparative advantage in glass bottle production. Comparative advantage actually, it can 3 hours is a comparative advantage actually in ceramic uh, uh, plate production, because here it is 3 hours and 9 hours. Bangladesh takes 9 hours, means India can produce 3 ceramic plate while Bangladesh can produce only 1. So since this difference is more here, so India has comparative advantage in this ceramic plate. So has a comparative advantage in glass bottle. No, this shouldn't be the correct one. Which of the following options are correct? And then India has an absolute advantage in ceramic plastic production. Yes, definitely, because it is producing cheaper, and a comparative advantage in ceramic plate production. So ceramic plate production is definitely, it has comparative advantage because it can produce that good more cheaply. Okay, so the opportunity cost is sorry, 2 by 3, and here it is 3 by 9. So it is 1 by 3 is less than 2 by 3. So it has comparative advantage. And so B is correct. And then India has an absolute advantage in ceramic plate production. Yes, it has ceramic plate absolute advantage because it can produce cheaper, no doubt in that, and a comparative advantage in glass bottle production. No, so this answer is actually not correct. So what I have marked, actually they are not correct. And next last one should be India has an absolute advantage in glass production. Yes, that's why, because it can produce cheaply, and a comparative oh, okay, now I saw it is not advantage, actually disadvantage. That's why I had marked it like that. So actually it is correct. A is correct because it is not advantage, it is disadvantage. So India has an absolute advantage in glass bottle production and a comparative disadvantage in glass bottle production. So yes, it is correct. Option A is correct because it is a disadvantage. India has actually comparative advantage in ceramic plate. So in glass bottle, definitely it has comparative disadvantage. So that is what is disadvantage in glass bottle production. So option A is correct, and then option B becomes wrong, and then option C is correct because it is disadvantage. I was reading it advantage. When I was solving this, I had read it disadvantage. So option C is also correct, and then option D becomes wrong. So A and C are actually correct option. So the answer should be A and C. Okay. Let's go to next question. This question is actually wrong. So probably you all will get credit for this question, or there can be typo. It is also possible. Since it is an MSQ question, means there must be more than one answer. So let's see. Suppose the own price elasticity of demand and income elasticity of demand are given by EP and EI respectively. The subscript P represents own price of a good and the subscript I represents the income of the consumer. Identify the correct statements from the following. So if EP is greater than 1 but less than infinity, the demand is price inelastic. No, here EP is greater than 1 means it is elastic. So this one option is wrong actually. As you all know by definition of demand, that elastic demand is 1 when the value of this EP is greater than 1. So it should be actually elastic then to be correct, but then it is wrong. Now, luxury goods are more priced than elastic. No, it is the very nature of definition of luxury goods said that we spend more on luxury goods when we have more money, and when we don't have money, we don't spend on luxury goods because our life can go without them too. So luxury goods are more price inelastic is actually wrong, and the necessities are price elastic. That is actually not correct because necessities are price inelastic. Means we have to eat the same amount, whatever be the price. Because food is a necessity, we have to pay the rent even if the rent goes up. But when it is car, well, we don't have to buy a car if it is very expensive. If it is cheap, then we will buy, or if our income has gone up, then we buy. So that way B is not correct. C, luxury goods have income elasticity greater than 1. Yes, this is correct. Actually, it is Engel's law extension. So this one is actually correct. And then D is 0 EP is less than 1 means the demand is price elastic. This one is also wrong because by definition, if the EP is less than 1, it is price inelastic. So only question number C is correct, but it says identify the correct statements from the following. So it cannot be a multi-select question, MSQ, it can be only one. So either you all will get this marks, or let's see what gate gives the answer, or it might be a typo error. Then instead of typing here price inelastic, they wanted to type price elastic. But well, it is the fault of the gate. So wait for the answer from gate and clarification. Then I will help you. I am here. Then question number 53. Let pi e be the expected inflation rate, I be the nominal interest rate, and R be the real interest rate. Which of the following statements is R correct? So for small values of R and pi e, R is the real interest rate, which is equal to nominal interest rate minus expected inflation. So A is actually correct. Then when real interest rate is low, then there are greater incentives to borrow and fewer incentives to lend. Yes, this is correct because consumers want to borrow, but lenders don't want to lend because they are not getting enough interest. So B is correct. And C, real interest rate reflects the real cost of borrowing. Yes, though it a part of borrowing, but yes, it is correct because if real interest rate goes up, the cost of borrowing becomes higher. And D, if I is equal to 8% and pi e is equal to 10%, then R is approximately plus 2%. This one is wrong because here R is equal to I minus pi e. So it should be 8 minus 10 means minus 2%. So that way D is wrong. So answers A, B, C are correct. Now, next question is 54. And this one is, which of the following models explains the upward sloping aggregate supply curve in the short run? Means our supply curve is in the short run upward sloping and it is aggregate supply curve. So we have this side this, then we have GDP here, and our aggregate supply is like this. This one is short run aggregate supply curve. So this side, of course, it will be price, and this side is GDP, and this one is short run aggregate supply curve. So it was Keynes who had said that aggregate supply curve is upward sloping, while classical said it is vertical because economy is always at full employment even in the short run. So sticky wage model, of course, that wages are sticky, they don't adjust downward quickly if the price goes down, and even if it is upward sloping, it takes time because labor is bound by contracts, so they cannot revise their wages before contract ends. So sticky wages leads to that. Then worker misperception model means workers are confused. They are not able to perceive whether price rise has gone up. So what happens? If the price rise goes up and they have misconception that the price has not actually gone up, so the nominal wages go up and they increase the supply of their labor because it is called, it may be money illusion, because workers are not able to perceive that, well, their real wages are constant because their wages increased by 10%, but price had also increased by 10%. But they feel that, well, last month I was getting only 500 rupees an hour, now I am getting 550. Let me work harder. But actually they are not getting any higher real wages. So this misperception model also raises aggregate supply curve upward, short run. And imperfect information, again here the information is imperfect, means price has gone up, but the workers have not got the information. So when they don't get the information, again short run aggregate supply curve will go up. So basically this worker misperception and imperfect information is basically same thing. Misperception means not correct information, and imperfect information is also the same thing, means not complete information. So the result will be the same. The decision will be wrong, or the decision will be they will increase their labor supply with higher nominal wages but same real wages. Solo model is not connected with wages, so this one is actually not correct. So options A, B and C, only these three are correct. Now next question, and next question is consider a Mundell-Fleming model for a small economy with perfect capital mobility. Okay, so this question has been asked again. It was asked in the previous two GATE exams also. So the goods market equation is Y is equal to C plus I plus G plus net exports. Here E is actually exchange rate, and then YCI is defined here. NX is the net export, and R star is the fixed world interest rate. E is the exchange rate that I already said, and R star is the fixed world rate. Okay. Now the money market equation is M by P is equal to same transaction demand is KY minus LR. L is speculative demand for money, which is negatively related to interest rate. So where okay, and LR positive constant. Which of the following policies are ineffective, okay, not effective. That is, have no impact on income in the short run. So there is perfect capital mobility, means it immediately happens. Capital moves in the country and out the country immediately. So expansionary fiscal policy under floating exchange rate. So it is actually not effective at all, because what happens that when government increases its expenditure G, then the prices go up, and when prices go up, then it is not able to export, and when it is not able to export, then GDP goes down. So NX becomes smaller if G is positive and NX is negative, then there is no impact on the net GDP. So expansionary fiscal policy under floating exchange rate has actually ineffective, so it is not having any impact in the short run. Now, expansionary monetary policy under floating exchange rate. No, only one of the policies will be correct. So, impossible trinity thing is there. So, expansionary monetary policy is not effective under floating exchange rate. And why? What happens? So, if the government, or not government, rather I would say central bank, which is government, increases money supply to increase GDP, then exchange rate will go down. Okay, exchange rate will go down, then that will promote interest, but real interest rate will go down. So when real interest rate goes down, nominal interest rate also goes down because it has increased money supply. So nominal interest rate has gone down, then what will investors do? They will invest money outside. So there will be massive outflow of capital, and whatever money supply has been increased in the economy, that will be counterbalanced, because domestic investors are investing abroad and foreign investors are withdrawing their capital from the domestic market. So that way this expansionary money supply will not be effective at all. And then expansionary fiscal policy under fixed exchange rate. No, under fixed exchange rate, fiscal policy is highly effective, because this exchange rate is fixed. So whatever government expenditure happens, the central bank is forced to keep the fixed exchange rate, so it doesn't attract imports. So hence, all this fiscal expansion policy is actually expansionary. Since earlier what had happened in A, that government increased exports, but then net trade went negative, means imports increased, because this floating exchange rate means the currency has become stronger here, and so exporters, currency has become what? Net trade has become, trade deficit has increased, so domestic currency has become stronger, and foreigners exported to this country. So here it is just the opposite. So C is not correct because it is highly effective. The question here is ineffective. Now expansionary monetary policy under fixed exchange rate, this is completely ineffective. The impossible trinity, means we cannot have floating exchange rate, we cannot have fixed exchange rate, independent monetary policy, and free capital movement. So fixed exchange rate is one, independent monetary policy is the second, and the third one is our free capital movement. So these three called are impossible trinity. So impossible trinity. So that way it is, monetary policy is completely ineffective. Now next question. Next question is, in the context of balance of payments accounting, which of the following transactions are not recorded? So here again the question is not recorded under balance of payments, which current account. In the current account they are not recorded. So merchandise trade is definitely part of current account, so it is recorded. Unilateral transfer payments, these are also recorded because they are current. They have been sent this year or received this year. And then purchase of international financial assets. Yeah, here it is purchase of financial assets, means it is investment, and so it will go in the capital account. And purchase of foreign currency by the central bank, this is also investment, so it will be part of capital account. So that way, the answer is these two are C and D are not recorded in current account. Both these are part of capital account. So answer to 56 is C and D. Obviously, the nature of these two C and D is different from the nature of these A and B. Now, next question is the demand and supply functions for a commodity are given by. My video is getting very long, so let me stop here and then I will answer this 57 to 65 later on. Thank you all for watching, and please like it and subscribe it. It helps me a lot. Thank you.